been great getting to know you recently. You are a
Appreciate
ball of
that.
energy and
Well,
you're full
I
of
don't know if I can
ideas.
match I don't know if I can match your energy.
You are X my
I
energy,
don't
but
think
like attracts like. So it is no surprise to me as we make our rounds in the local community, I'm hearing your name more. So you're
that's
doing a
good.
lot of great stuff. So I just want to say thank you
Thank you
for
for saying
doing
that.
creating platforms like this where people can
Yeah,
hear from different people.
yeah. I'm having Neil Dishman on, in 2 weeks. You know
Neil's a
what Neil
really good friend of mine. That's going to be a
do
great.
do you know what Neil do you know what Neil told said about you? He said, "Renee, Brendan's a force of nature." I was like, "Oh, I kinda like that. I'd like to be a force of nature. Why is Brendan one?"
Now I'm kind of wondering what he means by
I
that, but
think in a
I
g I think
think so too. Neil's one of those folks that he's really good at what he does. He'll always
yeah,
make time for you, and
yeah.
he smokes a lean and mean pork. I'll tell you that. The guy's a great barbecuer.
Oh, nice. My husband does too. He smokes that stuff. But you know what? I can't wait. I have all these questions about what you can ask in interviews and how far you can go and what's legal, what's not. I'm super excited about it because as a third party, we can say things that employee recruiters can't say or supposedly can't say. But I feel like they're holding the line a little bit too much. And so I want to find out from Neil what that exactly looks like. So I've got all kinds. I'm going to be like picking his attorney brain. Sorry, Neil, but that's what I'm going to be doing. So anyway, enough about Neil. Let's talk about you. So first off, Canadian born, raised in North Carolina. How did you migrate to Chicago? Not that
So
you're a bird or anything, but like, how did you get there?
I just spread my wings and flew, Renee.
You'd be an eagle, Brendan. Come on. You'd be like, if you were a bird, what would you be? You'd be an eagle. Okay.
Just really interesting because I've thought about that in the past. My coming from another country, not having roots necessarily, it leaves you a little bit more open to possibilities.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
My so when we moved to North Carolina, it was kind of rural. I went to college, Appalachian State in the mountains, loved it, but
Wow.
I had never been around a big city. I had dreams and visions, and
Okay.
I asked my parents, and this was I was in my early 20s. I'm like, I have an opportunity with my current company to go up to Chicago, open an office, hire salespeople, expand the market,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna be leaving you. And my parents were supportive, and I'm so happy I did all of that.
Yeah.
I will say though, now that I'm later in life and have a child, it's going back and forth. I'm in the sandwich generation a little bit.
Okay.
So it's been amazing, and we go back and forth, home. We were just there for Christmas, but yeah, no, we're here in the Chicago suburbs. My wife, my son Jake, he just turned 5,
Have
and then
fun.
other than that, I'm working all the time, but don't make it a
I
bad
think
thing. I love what I
I
do.
think so. So which job I don't have your I don't have your resume. I don't have your profile in front of me. Which company did you move to run sales teams? Because I love to talk to people who manage sales teams because as you know, they say the 2 hardest people to manage are admins and sales teams.
Yeah, I can
Sales
see
teams
that.
being harder. I've managed sales teams. It's a nightmare. What
It is.
company were you with?
So this was with a company called Prime Pay. They were
Okay.
a kind of a smaller regional provider of payroll services,
Okay.
and I was a top performer in North Carolina, and then had the opportunity to come up and be a manager
Yeah.
with 0 training.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just threw
So
you right in, huh?
we talk about interview questions. I remember somebody coming into my office for an interview, and like 3 questions in, I'm like, "So how old are you?" How many how many kids do you have? Just building rapport, not even understanding
Yeah.
that inflection point kickstarted me into my HR journey because I wasn't getting what I needed, so I went
Mhm.
out and found it.
Interesting. Really, the HR journey alright, so the quest for that knowledge was when you're in a position to hire, basically.
Right, because there's implications if you don't do things
Yeah.
correctly. So pain is always one of my best teachers, but once you solve for that, then it's around, wow, how do I optimize this? And
Yeah.
over time, when you're talking with a lot of different people, it gives you a different perspective.
Yeah.
And eventually I got that perspective and ended up leaving to go back to being an individual contributor. Because as as one of my mistakes as a manager, and I had an employee tell me this as I was having to terminate him, he said, Brendan, you thought I was working as hard as you. I wasn't. And that was an assumption I made a mistake on. So I learned to inspect what you inspect. So expect what you
Trust,
inspect. So
right, and
yes,
also trust but confirm, same kind of a thing, yeah.
chat. So that
Yeah,
was a
trust
great
but
one.
confirm, yeah. Yeah,
That was
so then you're managing you didn't like it, or you just made because sometimes you make more money as an individual contributor than you do managing, right? Like,
that's
that's
true.
sometimes the appeal.
I wanted to be as close to the customer as I could, and I felt removed. I felt there, you
Mm,
get in that politics of middle management, and I miss that. And yes, you are right. When you're a top performer, you do take a pay cut. It's a
yep.
different type of stress. I'll
Yeah,
say. I mean, I'm not saying it's any less stressful,
yeah.
but I remember meeting somebody from Paychecks, and she sat me down for 2 hours, and I said, "This sounds like a really great opportunity, but I will not leave my team, 100%." And she said, "Let me ask you this, if your team found a better opportunity, would you want them to take it?" I said, "Absolutely." And that kinda stopped me. So, fast forward, I'll just share this really quick. I have my resignation letter in hand, and I go into the office, and I go into the office, then I go into
This
my
was so
office.
Paychex made you an offer.
Right. So this was still when I was at Prime Pay. Paychex made
Right.
an offer, I took it. And as I'm like getting ready to get my day set up, my number one rep, she was a single mom. She was amazing.
Yeah.
She ran circles around everyone else. She came in, she closed the door. I saw her face. I saw a piece of paper in her hand. I said, "Hey, stop right there. I'm quitting today too." It was the most it was a very important bonding moment because we both realized the culture was toxic and there was something better out there for us. Uh,
Okay.
so we left, some others stayed, and I keep in touch with them. But gosh, that was well over 10 years ago.
Okay. And did you work for Paychex then, right?
Yeah, and then I went right to Paychecks.
Do you wanna
Worked.
hear a funny paycheck story?
Love to.
So, I don't know if you know this about me, but I spent a couple years developing an app before apps were kind of easy to make. This is probably 20 maybe 2019 to 2022, a failed app. It was a failure. Spent a lot of money, learned a lot of things, but we were trying to raise money. So I was, I built a pitch deck, did the pitches. You knew some people that had a lot of money who did all that kind of stuff. But I did a pitch to Tom Golisano, who built
Yeah.
Paychecks.
He's basically a legend out in
So
Rochester.
we know someone that knows him. He gets in front of he loved me. Tom, he loved me. We went, well, like he loved me, but we do the pitch. I spend 5 hours with him. He's like, Renee, come on over here, sit down with me. I'm at smoke a cigar. I don't smoke cigars. I'm like, okay, Tom, so they smoke a cigar. But we are trying to get him to give us he has so much money. He's like, back then he had like $5 billion. He was a whale. Yeah. I didn't need that much. I was like, Tom, I don't need that much. He's like, Renee, I could work with you. But he didn't really invest in technology. He came back a couple times. We had some of his analysts look at some of the stuff, and ultimately he didn't end up investing, which really sucked. But yeah, so I read his book before I met him, and he's married to a professional athlete, like that tennis player. What's her name?
Oh
I
yeah.
can't remember. She's like a lot younger than him. I think she was 40, and he was like, I think when I met him, he was like 80.
I mean, to be Tom when I grow up. But yeah, he's
Yeah,
built
so that's my
something.
that's my fun paycheck story is that I got
Yeah.
like one of my biggest pitches was to a whale, which is Tom Golisano. He was super nice. He was like salt of the earth. He had nothing to prove. He didn't give a crap. And I think not short after he bought Kodak for $100 million or something crazy. I don't know why he bought Kodak. And then he's got a big philanthropy for healthcare, I believe, like hospitals and things like that, I think, if
Yeah,
I'm catching
he's
it right.
yeah, he's involved in a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So yeah, that's my story.
wow. Well, if that app sold, we may not be talking
I
because
know.
you would be on a beach
It was a
somewhere.
great idea, Brendan. It's still a great idea, but, we just couldn't get the funding. We always spent too much money. We made a lot of errors. We spent too much money in development.
Well, if you go to any of these HR technology shows these days, there is an entire row of
Apps.
AI and apps and companies that
Have you
want to
been
hook.
have you gone to one recently?
No, just because I've been around it
Yeah,
so much. So
yeah,
I will talk with the vendors and try and understand strengths, weaknesses. I mean, it's not just on tech, it's on service as well. It's on integrations and
yeah.
things like that. And what I find is that, it's like buying TVs. They all look similar on the front, but it's once you start getting into the nitty-gritty,
Yeah.
That's where HR, though, they really need to define criteria, workflows, alignment between departments, because I mean, over 40% of system implementations fail,
Yeah.
and I would
Yeah.
feel terrible helping someone out. Sometimes I would tell people, "Just look, call your company. They can fix this. Like, you don't need to,
Right. Did
like,
you
up."
sell a certain platform?
Yeah, so yeah, Prime Pay's platform, which I think was an older version of Millennium Paychecks. So they had 2 versions. They had a hosted solution, and that was during the time where things were moving more cloud-based.
Yeah.
So
But you didn't really have to do a payroll integration. I guess you could with the general ledger though, but
you can, and some are doing that today. A
yeah.
lot of it, though, was around, like the real time, like with job costing, time and attendance systems.
Yeah, the time and attendance stuff.
You see that a lot in, like, construction,
Yeah.
technology, back-end
Factoring. Yeah.
ERPs,
Yep.
things like
I
that.
can see that, yeah.
That's one of the biggest black eyes, I think, in the industry right now is,
Really?
a lot of folks saying, "Yeah, we got APIs all day long," and then, customers are sitting there 6 months later like, "I don't know how to figure this out," and now they're racking up big IT bills. So I think there's an opportunity for system integrators for and there is more consolidation of the industry. In fact,
Yeah.
my last company, Paycor, got acquired by Paychex
Really?
as I was going out the door,
Wow.
which was great because I didn't have to explain a lot, but
Yeah, yeah,
I was already
yeah.
gone.
Like how they got bought. I decided
Yeah,
to go.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
been
So
interesting.
you spent most of your time on these payroll HR systems for most of your career, and now what does Hub have? What are you selling for Hub? Are you selling more of a benefits package, or is it payroll too? What are you doing with Hub? They don't do payroll, do they? Or do they?
No, so Hub is agnostic to technology.
Is it a broker?
Yeah, so we're the 5th largest,
It's the
broker.
broker.
Focus on small to middle market companies, not out there chasing Coca-Cola, headquartered right in Chicago. I'm local, our teams are local. I have clients, even under 50 employees, all the way up through, 1,500
So
employees
you're
and
really
growing.
sitting in my ICP group. Those are my ideal client profiles. Those are people that don't have a robust HR, they don't have recruiters, they need a yeah, that's my group that I try
Good.
to market to because they only post a job and if that doesn't work, then they don't really have anywhere to go.
Right. And I think that's where HR and really every executive, they have to form their own external board of directors. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about the ones at your company. I'm talking about your partners and your vendors
Yeah.
that's how you get more done. It's just sometimes you gotta kiss some frogs to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. So, how does this feel? Like a broker, totally different than what you've done. Because I saw, wait, hold on, let's ask you what to talk about. You said midlife crisis. I didn't say that. You said that. Hold on, let me mid career crisis. I'm like, I mean, I guess you are mid career. You seem so young, but you are mid career.
You
So, was
got it.
this your mid career? Was Hub your crisis? Not Hub itself, but like pivoting out of this pay. Hub, he's fine. He's happy. Don't
Yes. No, you're right. You're 100% right.
Is
So,
that what it was?
I mean, you gotta go back 10 years. So, when I was at Paychex, that's where I said, I don't wanna be an empty suit. I need to understand this HR, what it's all about, and yeah, I started to do that at my last company, but I never went as deep as I did when I started volunteering, for a local SHRM chapter.
I
So,
mean, God, Brennan, it is a full-time job for you. It's
it
like you have 2 careers. You have like they should pay you. You have the SHRM career, and then you have this your paying job. I don't know how you do it. I mean, that's where your clients are at, so it makes I'm sure you get a lot of benefit from it, or you should.
you know what, Renee, that you're right. There is overlap, but it is a labor of love. I have seen so many people try and jump into, some sort of community like this and volunteer. Life takes you off the rails, and it's
I
not always
know.
their fault. Sometimes your eyes are bigger than your stomach, and you want to help
Yeah,
with all these things.
yeah.
So, with the SHRM chapter, I basically, I know, I had to learn every single thing. So I was president for 6 years. We won every award there was at the time. It's while I loved and just Like, I could run HRA forever. Like any good leader, right, you have to create a succession plan.
Yeah.
And
So is this the first year Dwight's taking over? Is this your first?
yeah,
Okay. He
yeah. So
called me
I'm
about an audit thing. Did I tell you this?
yeah?
Yeah, he said Sherm needs some wanted to know who I had to do a financial audit. Well, if he wanted to know if I did financial audit, I said, "Oh my god, absolutely not." But I said, I have a list of like, I can find somebody to help you." He's like, "How about pro bono?" And I said, "Well, I have a couple favors I can call in. I'll try that one." But he didn't get back to me yet. I said, I need to understand the requirements. I don't know what this means. Like, you need to send me in writing what Sherm wants because I have to be able to find you the right person to qualify this, so he hasn't done that yet, but, he's great, he's a great guy.
Yeah, I and I was picky about who took over the chapter because, even though HRA's been around for 50 years,
They don't vote? You appoint?
so they vote, but it's just one of those things where, "Hi, raise your hand if you wanna be president." A lot of people, they don't want the role
Yeah, I get it. It's a lot of work, I'm sure.
because of the workload. So back when I started volunteering, I just got more into it. I eventually went and took my SHRM SCP certification because I really wanted to understand the back end processes and all these things. And that really helped. And now, with having thousands of conversations under my belt, that led me to where I am today, where instead of, being a vendor, which as much as I tried, it's a transactional industry, HRIS, the payroll software,
Yeah, I get
where
it.
now I'm a trusted advisor and I can work with my clients year over year, really be an extension of HR, because that's where I see HR needing the most help. I mean, yeah, plan designs and controlling costs are important, but understanding your workforce, the turnover, the employee experience,
Yeah,
how to automate. So we talk
yeah,
about systems, right? And this is where, some, insurance professionals in my position, they may have some different knowledge on the back end around spreadsheets and things, but I was on the front lines with benefit administration systems and
right,
EDI feeds not working and
right.
employees not being able to enroll, and how do you manage through that?
What
And
a nightmare.
yeah, and I worked closely with Hub when I was at my previous company, so I knew firsthand the reputation they had,
Got
the
it.
support,
Yeah.
and the final thing is, I joined one of my best friends. Oh,
Is Hub kinda like a principal, like you have different offices or like a State Farm? Kinda like is it are they like,
no, it's we're not like an agent. There
yeah,
there are
okay, yeah,
regions,
thank
but
you, an agent.
we are one hub. So if I need something from a different area, like, we're not billing each other back and doing all these different things.
Okay,
It is a really nice setup, and my partner, Ed McConnell, he's been in the business for 20 years, and
okay.
he's my mentor, and we have fun together, and basically we are co-brokers. So we
Oh,
work
how
on
nice. So
all
it's
accounts together.
working out really well.
It is, where he's got so much and he's forgotten more about insurance than I'll ever know,
Yeah,
and then I come right from the HR side, so
so
with
it's a
our
good
powers
match.
combined.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. So then what kind of, like, benefits do you guys sell or broker?
It's all of them. It's all the
Okay.
major carriers, the medical, you have the ancillary, then you have the worksite benefits, voluntary, things that, expanded. When you think about wellness, it's solutions around mental health, financial, things like that. The one very interesting thing, and again, why I leaned into Hub was their focus on the employee experience and, how employees will their needs will change over time.
Sure.
People will benchmark their plans all day long, but do they take the time to understand their people? So that's where I have tools to help HR say, wow, this is a different way that I've seen my people. And what it does is it allows them to ask different questions, which then sometimes changes the decision, the outcome
I could
in a good way.
imagine. Yeah, so you really ask the right questions and make them think through where they strategy on it. I mean, from a recruiting standpoint, from an outsider standpoint, benefits are just huge. I mean, it can be more in part it can be more important than having a market comp when you're doing a deal, you know? And so what are you seeing? Because
100%.
in your mid-market company, all the mid-market, let's say under 500, it can swing like crazy. I mean, what the companies can afford, what they offer. You know, I remember, I remember back in the day. So when you train people in recruiting, which half of them don't do it, the first conversation you need to ask them what kind of benefits you have specifically, and then how much are you paying for your health care? Like literally pull out your paycheck and let me know what you're paying because when we transfer you to another company, we got to look to see what's happening, right? It's an important conversation you need to have up front because it is a comp conversation. And I remember this is probably 2005, 2000, I don't know, somewhere around there. And we were doing a search with a pretty big law firm, and people were assuming that their rates were going to be, people say, oh, their market rates or they're similar. I'm like, that means nothing. I can imagine what it means to you. And so they were rushing to hire this guy, though. He was an expensive candidate, maybe 70,000, 60,000. His healthcare plan then was going to cost him $1,100 out of his pocket a month as a premium. Now you hear that. You hear that these days. Back then you didn't hear that. So I said to the client, well, wait, hold on. I need 12,000 more dollars. This isn't going to cut it. They're like, well, that's what the healthcare is. I'm like, I have to make them whole, all these things. But now, no, what is happening? What are they going to do with this healthcare, Brendan? What is happening?
Well, last year, we really hit a point where everyone was getting hit with high renewals.
The 30%er, the 30% renewals. Like, I mean, where was this coming from?
I mean, the ranges, I mean, from 7%, I saw up to 49%. Now, you hear that and, whoa, what's going on? A lot of it is, your company size. Obviously, if you're under 50 employees, you're community rated, small group, so it's more like age and zip code. You're a little bit more limited there. Although there are things you can do, but when you start growing over 50, you talk now you're in ACA territory. If you get large enough, you can start looking at different funding arrangements, level funding, self funding, and then from there you can do different things with stop loss and contracts and some of these different point
So as
solutions.
usual, the small companies kind of get screwed.
They can and they do, but this is also where if they haven't been incrementally making small changes over time, and this year they slapped their employees with, a 30% increase on benefits, that's where you're going to hear a lot of noise. Employee contribution strategy is important, and you can do
Yeah.
different things. I mean, certainly you got to pay attention to section 105, discrimination, and things like that, but there are a ton of things people can do. But when you think about things that are driving up costs, I mean, unfortunately, right, there's a higher prevalence of cancer now. Chronic conditions are rising. You have pharmacy, so prescription. I mean, everyone's heard about the GLP-1s, but you have these medications, like everything you see on TV is
Yeah.
tens of thousands of dollars. But what I'm also seeing is more of a consumerism of healthcare. So for the right companies that communicate benefits properly, and I'll say over 50% of employees don't understand their benefits.
Okay.
And out of that 50%, like almost a quarter have like buyer's remorse. They're like, we wish we would have picked a different plan. And that's
Huh.
hard. Like an example of something that it still works, but somebody to come in and say, oh, we'll just offer a high deductible plan to all your employees. It'll reduce their premiums. They can
Right.
sock money away. Well,
Yeah.
depending on your workforce, if they can't meet that, if something happens, they can't meet that deductible, that may be their savings,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
without
Oh, yeah.
without other things that kind of help buffer that or provide other options, that's where I think employers really need to focus on more of a tailored approach versus one size fits all approach.
Right, right. Do you see this is a very generalization, so it's probably not I don't know how I'm gonna pose this question, but what have you seen with benefits with companies? Do they have more of an attitude like, "I need to do this to help my people," or "I need to do this because this is what's expected of me," or like, I'm sure you see it across the board, but to me, benefits it's a retention, right? It's a retention for keeping your
Mhm.
people if it's a good package. I mean, you can have golden handcuffs if it's a great benefit package. I have a company, get this, Brendan. It was wild. I get a referral for a CFO search, and this company was retiring a guy after 20 years, right? It's a construction company and it is structured as an ESOP. They contribute 25% of your salary to the ESOP retirement plan. Some of these guys are retiring as millionaires, making like 50 grand. They're still retiring as millionaires because they've been there for 20 years.
Oh,
And
yeah,
they get some really good returns. They sock it in the S&P 500. They know when people are going to retire and they're getting percent returns on their portfolio. But
that's amazing.
25%. So their people never they fire people, but people don't leave because you can't go anywhere. And then they have Blue Cross Blue Shield and they pay for it 100%.
Well, those are definitely some things that will keep you around a company.
That keep you around, right? But, like, they take and then because they're ESOP, everyone's rowing in the same direction because they wanna make sure they wanna make sure they get their 25%, right? So people are
Right.
very yeah, it was crazy. When I got that job, I was like, "Oh my gosh, who can I call? Who should I give this gift to?" And I called a friend. I called one of my friends. I was like, "Hey, you sick of the PE rat race? I got something for you." And he took it. He's like, "I'm in. I work 9 to 4:30." I go, "Yeah." They're never
Well,
gonna sell. It
is
took
he
a little
loving
bit
it?
of a pay cut, but, like,
Yeah.
long term so that
Yeah.
you don't see those structures as much as you used to, but
No, I think I have one client that does that because, I mean, you are it's a totally different structure. You're right, and
oh, it's a
leadership
totally different structure. Yeah.
has to be open to it. But that brings up a very good point around what makes an employee loyal to a company
Yeah.
and what keeps them engaged. Well, and one of the things that I've noticed with HR is, they yes, like we're aware we have 5 generations in the workforce. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like we got it. We got it. But, with your new hires, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
you could have so many different types of folks. Like even millennials, which, I'm born in 82, so I guess I'm like right on the cusp.
You're a Gen X with a millennial, you're like a blend. Is it
I
Gen
must be, but
Is it
technically
Gen
I'm
I'm Gen X. I'm the same thing on the other side. I'm like 1965, so 66 are the boomers. I'm like one of those edge people too. And I'm really proud to say that I'm not a boomer.
no, I heard you mention that on,
My
your last
kids ma
podcast with
I know.
Casey.
My husband is, and the kids call him boomer. "Oh, like a boomer, boomer this, boomer." I go, "I better not act like a boomer." But anyway, it's pretty funny. Yeah, so you're kind of like in
Boomer
the
in my
lost
house is
generation.
my cat. We have a cat named Boomer.
Boomer's your cat?
We do have a cat named Boomer.
Yeah, so I'm sort of in that, like, lost generation too on the cusp.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
kinda
but
like it's like being born on the 21st. You're like, are you a Capricorn or are you a Gemini, right? Like, what are you? It's the same
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I think I'm a Libra, September 20.
I get along with Libras really well.
Well, that's why we're
Yeah,
here.
I think you're like my complementary sign because 'cause I'm a Gemini, so it's Aquarius is in Libras.
Okay, you're gonna
Yeah,
have to help me with all that.
yeah. Well, that's all I really know.
I'll take it, I'll take it. But yeah, no, just to finish the thought, and even in the first year of, an employee's journey, you could have folks that are just coming off their parents' insurance, and they're trying to understand,
Right.
okay, like, what is a deductible? All
Yeah.
the way through people kind of in that mid-career, and this is where, to your point earlier, if the compensation and benefits isn't aligned, they'll say, "Look, if your benefits, your premiums will higher, right? Not as rich. I tell you what, give me 4 or 5,000 more in base comp,
Yeah.
and we'll call it even." But now that issue becomes a payroll issue, and that goes on in perpetuity. Oh, that
Yeah.
is not necessarily a long-term
Yeah.
solution. But if you can start to understand, that hey, like they're gonna go to their child's volleyball game and not the company happy hour, and just really start to give people resources. Like I was talking to somebody earlier about, when we get to this age, we're in the sandwich generation. We have older parents we need to take care of. We have, maybe kids at home, and that's
Yeah.
a really hard place to be. So what resources are we providing to our employees to help them with that? Whether it's flexibility, leave. And this is where I step back and look at things from more of an HR perspective because,
Okay.
wellness, I mean, most people think, well, we'll just, get people to go get their annual screening and they'll be good. Yes, you have to do that. But if you have the employees scheduled to the point where they're overworked, burned out, like that doesn't matter. Like you have to fix some of the work design as well to kind of get to the ultimate goal.
Right, because 'cause you're complaining about the cost of the benefits, but then are you contributing to the downgrade of the health of your people, right? To your point. Yeah. I mean, I never thought about it that way. What's going on with the mental wellness area? Is it gaining speed? Is it not gaining speed? Are companies looking at that more?
It's gaining so much speed right now.
That's good.
I'm trying to
Or
I'm in
just
this spot right now where, yes, like earlier this year, I tried therapy out and it helped.
good.
Had a couple childhood things. I was like, why am I getting triggered? Blah, blah, blah.
Feel triggered. I have a girlfriend of mine, and trigger is like it's every other word. I'm like, "Oh, you're triggered. What are you triggered for now?" I mean, she's triggered about everything.
Right. So I did actually CBT. I did cognitive behavioral therapy, and that helped because I could then take a pause and then formulate response, so I'm not just like going out and like, thinking one thought first instead of just taking a breath. It is something that is a behavior change, but yeah, I mean, I think I did like 3 or 4, worked out great for me, but my point is around mental health, yes, huge need, and I also wonder about some of the business side of things and how they do perpetuate therapy ongoing. Like what's the end goal we're working towards here, right? Is it to stay in therapy? Because that's okay, right? And then it's all around, self-care, and those are all super important things. But where's the line between over indexing on that, right?
Mm.
And then not. I
Did
think
you
with mental
feel
health,
when you decided to do therapy, did you walk in that knowing what your end game was? Is that kinda how you is that why you're saying this? Did you not know? Or
no,
was it, like, not
Renee,
even part of the plan?
a little bit of me and my curiosity that I can't turn off, and it was something I've never done.
Yeah.
And I said, "You know what? I'll play the game. I'm gonna jump in, but I'm gonna have an open mind. I'm not gonna be one that's, not gonna be receptive
This
because
isn't gonna
that's."
work. This is bullshit. This is yeah, you're not
Right,
gonna yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. So,
So I was one of
it's
those
good.
anti, like, therapy people,
Yeah.
um, pretty much my whole life. And then I met a friend of mine through met a woman through business, and this is when I had, left my firm, and I was under a non-compete because they had to pay me to leave. They had to pay me to go. So I couldn't work, but they had to pay me a check. And so I was doing some consulting, and I was with this crazy billionaire, and he had a son that was just so screwed up. The son liked me. He was a young kid. He was like 26 or something. And so I pretty much like I was just trying to get him to work on time, come to work by 8. See, I don't even say I was coaching him, I was babysitting him, basically. I was babysitting a grown-ass child, a grown-ass man, and so the therapist for the family and this woman was trying to help with this kid, but he wouldn't take his medications. That's how I met her. I met her through, like, business, and she had an amazing practice in Chicago, thriving, like, 20 people under her, all this crazy stuff, and I had gone to a therapist once before. Yeah, the same thing, right? Everyone's got shit, right? Like, we wouldn't be humans if we
We
didn't
all
have a
have
bunch of
trauma.
right, we
Right.
all have
Pick your trauma.
yeah, pick your trauma. We all have stuff, right? And but then when I went to her, compared to other people, she was the first therapist that ever said to me, like, conversed with me as an adult, not just, "Well, what do you think? Well, how do you feel about" it was more like, "You know what, Renee? You need to set some boundaries, and this person's terrible for your life." I was like, "Oh my God, thank you." She was actually giving me feedback, right? Which I loved, and then my oldest had really crippling social anxiety as a child and even into young adulthood, and then I took him to her, and we actually did, like, joint things. He's like, "Yeah, Ma, just staying here because you need to help me with this," and, that's when I saw the power of
Right.
therapy if you get to the right person that you can either gel with or that can help you, you know what I mean? And I would say if
Yes.
she was here, I would say she'd probably say to me, "There should be an end game,"
Mhm.
you know?
Right,
We
but
should
once you
have a
get to the end.
plan. We should have an end game to get you improved in some way. Like, we should get there. And we did it with my son. I mean, we did it. But
Yeah.
I also partnered with him. And she said I had some intuitiveness with it. Like, she's like, you just kind of like you intuitively kind of knew what to do without any training. And then when I she gave me the plan with it, and then I was able to work with him on things on a daily basis. And he also was like, this is not gonna beat me. My son's like, he's an attorney, he's super smart, like he's successful. He's fine. He's still got his quirks, whatever. But he was like, I'm not gonna let this thing beat me either. He's like, I'm not. So he was determined not to let it beat him either because it was ruining his life. I
You
mean,
had to do the work. What? I mean,
yeah,
that's
you
an
gotta do
amazing
the work.
story. But what would cause a child? I mean, I can think of a million things, but I
The
mean,
social
social
anxiety?
anxiety, because I'm seeing much more of that now
I
from my
don't know. And
friends.
what I feel really bad about, well, he's got severe ADHD, severe. And I have ADHD, if you can tell. But he's got that
Oh,
hyperness. No, you can't tell. But this is a kid, back then, so he's 33, right? So back then, it was just kind of coming to light in the education system about this ADHD. And usually kids who have it, I didn't know he had it. He's a boy. He sat on his head. He ran around. He was hyper. I was a boy. I had 3 boys. Like, it just wasn't unusual for boys to have that kind of energy, right? But he
right.
did sit on his head most of his time because he's jumping around. So he did sit on his I tease him, I go, "Yeah, sit on your head most of your life." But I didn't know he had it because he didn't have behavioral issues. He never got in trouble. And
You
a
wanna know
lot of
something?
kids with severe ADHD get in trouble. They have social issues with that. He was well liked. He didn't have
So
anything with that. But when he was in situations where he was like, this is how he was. If he was in a comfortable environment, he would no anxiety. But if he was in a new environment is where the anxiety came from. So what he did
mhm.
was he repelled new activities or like new experiences because he knew he would have anxiety in it. I mean, I think it was just confidence, lack of fear. It was fear-based, lack
Mhm.
of acceptance, and it was all in his head because he never had any issues. It was all in his head. And he's
When
you know what she said to me, Brendan? This was terrible as a parent. We're sitting there and she said to him, "Nick, when is the first time you felt like anxiety?" He's like, "I think 5 or 6."
that's pretty powerful to identify that, because normally it's like, "My stomach hurts, mommy,"
No, he's like
or
5 or 6 years old. I felt it and I was like, and I didn't know. So I was like, "Oh my god, I failed you." I had no idea.
I wouldn't be too hard on
No,
yourself.
I know, but I mean, just like it starts like it you have to pay attention, you know what I mean? And the thing to your
Yeah.
point, when I think about your age now and your child, when you're in your like late 30s, just let's say 38, 35 to 50, let's say. But really when you're in your 40s, and if you're an overachiever, you're a type A, you're a workaholic like you and I are, it does consume you. It consumes a lot of your energy if you're like very career oriented. And so you have to make sure you really take a pause and with your kids and really pay attention because I think that maybe I didn't pay as much of attention as maybe I should have. Not that I wasn't with them, not that I wasn't there, but it doesn't mean that you're present with them just because you're physically there.
Yeah, that's I got so before my son was born, I was kinda going around and asking people for advice, and I
Yeah.
heard one of the best ones I got was from a gentleman. He said, "Brendan, you're always 2 steps ahead at work. Don't be that way with your family."
That is great
So
advice.
to and I know folks that are like us, it's hard to turn off when you need to. I mean, you can't just flip switches here and there. So then we start thinking maybe we have a mental health. So, my story
I
growing
probably
up.
do. I probably have something that people get driven like that. I mean, my boys will still say to me, now the twins are 30, Nicholas is 33. They're all very successful. They're all fine. Like, and I'm sure
Sure.
they have trauma too. But they'll even say to me, yeah, mom, when you go on vacation every Friday night, every time we were on vacation, Friday at dinner, you'd have to leave the dinner table because you were getting an offer and you had to like, because I always ran my own businesses. And so they remember that and they're resentful.
But also you modeled behavior and they're all successful. So pick your
That's true.
trauma. Pick your trauma. Look,
Yeah, I didn't
Renee,
mean to.
I wish I had a picture here. I was an obese kid. The
No,
The first
you're
time
in
I
such good
ever
shape.
oh my god. Well, I have a chip on my shoulder, and I had to build myself up to protect myself because I was getting bullied, and I heard this on another podcast, and this same thing happened to me. It's the moment you have that epiphany that you're different, and that moment for me was going into the clothing store and being pointed to the husky section.
Oh, the Huskies. Well, I had the same problem when I hit puberty and I got fat, you know? And then and then at 13 or 14, how I solved it was I just didn't eat, right? That's how
Same,
I solved it. So then, at
same.
135 pounds, 5'9" in high school, I still thought I was fat because everybody else weighed 120, you know? And I
Oh,
look
yeah.
at pictures, I'm like, what was I wasn't fat. What was I thinking? You know? But it is I remember at 10 years old getting on the scale, the weigh-ins with everybody. Remember those?
Mhm.
The public weigh-ins, and I was like 105, and everybody else was like 85. I was like I remember being at the back of the line waiting
Yeah.
to get a gap so somebody wasn't there to say it. And if you think about this, Brendan, the adults that were doing this, weight's a big thing for people. It's a
Huge.
very private thing for people, right? Because
Yes.
society's brutal to people that are overweight, right? You're sloppy, you're lazy, all you do is eat Snickers. Like they think that they have these ideas that like you're just a complete like undisciplined piece of crap, you know? But if you think
Mhm.
about like those mothers, like they knew what stress that was. Why did they do that to kids? Why do they make things so public?
I think
'Cause I mean, I still remember this 50 years later, that feeling.
yeah. That's
And then
that
you're
that really
right,
stays with you.
of being different.
It's easier sometimes to let someone else do the work for you. See, it's
Yeah.
easier sometimes. I see it, putting kids in screens, giving them packaged foods. I'm not saying we don't do any of that stuff, but I know that this little human watches me. And in a weird way, I had so much adversity as a child I had to overcome. It affects me today. And I have to create adversity for him, or
Mm,
he's not gonna be able to dig deep when the time comes. Because life is hard, and
yeah.
you gotta be ready for whatever comes your way. That's why if you're not having hard things done to you, go sign up to do hard things.
I never
See
thought
what you're
about
made
that.
of.
I need to think about it with my grandson. My grandson has this, like his life's so easy. I
Oh,
mean, everything's given to him. They have everything. I mean, we did too, but my dad was a force. My dad was Sicilian, and he was, like, really tough.
I remember you telling me about
Mhm. So a
him.
lot of my trauma comes from him because you weren't seen as a female in our family. Females weren't really seen as an equal
And
because you're supposed to just, you know, we just they take care of you. You're taken care of, but you're not seen as a person. And so I think that's
so
why
funny.
my brother is an engineer. He went to a job, been there for 35 years. Super smart guy. Didn't really have that ambition. Great work ethic, but kind of stayed there. And then I had something to prove. So my trauma was I've got something to prove.
Same. Yeah.
2 things. I've got something to prove and don't tell me what to do. That's another big that's another big one of my
Well, that's why you own your own business, and
don't
that's
tell me what to do because that's all I had when I was a kid.
yeah, yeah. But
Someone telling me what
when
having
I meet
control over me.
well, and you probably get some of this too, right? When you're out networking, and maybe it's been natural for you, but I mean, historically, I'm an introvert, and people are like, "What?" I'm like, "No, yes." I had to, in my mind, create this image of this person I wanted to be, and then every day do things congruent with that
You're an
until
introvert?
eventually, yeah, it just became more natural. But I'll tell you, I was even a little nervous hopping on here with you.
Really?
Yeah.
I just never No, see, here's the thing, like, all right, so you probably would tag me as an extrovert, right? But the thing with me is that I don't really enjoy networking events. I don't really enjoy small talk at all. I like meaty
Mhm.
conversations. I don't
I
like
see what
small
you mean.
talk. So I'm not real good like, "Hey, how are you? What's going on?" I'm like, "Bored, I'm bored, I'm bored, but I wanna be here." So I like the HRA, I think, was a little bit easier for me, not because I feel intimidated, but they're very warm people.
Yeah.
They're very warm, right? So my finance people aren't, you know, and they can be intimidating because 'cause they're all pretty brainy and just a little bit more standoffish, so maybe that's kind of what I'm thinking of, but I don't enjoy networking events at all.
Well, I mean, first of all, like, HR has the best stories, right? I mean,
They do oh my god, the
like,
stories are crazy.
did you come to the HR Horror Stories event I put on through the HR Hot Seat West?
No, do I need to do this HR hot seat thing, by the way?
Yeah, so you should, so there's a Western chapter, that I run, and then Chicago, the founder, Eric Kershott, he'd be a great guest.
Okay,
He's been doing that for a number of years, and
okay.
it's a mastermind group where HR people bring questions, and then we break out into groups, and folks help each other. So
Nice.
I'll have one at the end of January, but we had, like, an HR scary stories
No,
one back in
the
Halloween.
only scary that was the Halloween when and I we can't voice him on here, right? Because it's a private event. I was talking about Neil's story on a podcast, and then I edited it out because I didn't know if Neil would want me to say that. You know what I'm talking about? The one
I do say that, I just leave everyone's names out. It's like
well, this story is so, different. Oh, I don't know if I should really I would have had to call him and ask his permission, so I just edited it out.
but, that's the juicy stuff that I think
It's
HR sometimes
crazy.
misses when they're not showing up at
It's
these events.
crazy. Some
Right.
of the stuff that they have, like, I thought recruiting had some crazy things at recruiting firms, but, like, they top the cake with some of the crazy employee stories they have. It's bananas. No,
Yeah.
so I didn't so you hosted this scary story thing?
Yeah, I do a monthly HR mastermind group, and it just happened to fall on October 30th, so and I just had, stitches in my head.
Oh, I know, I saw them
So
at the party.
yeah, so I had, like, scissors coming out. It tied in really well. But, yeah, so, within Chicagoland, right, you have HR Hot Seat. So you got my chapter, you got Eric's Chicago chapter. There's about 20 SHRM chapters in the state. Chicago SHRM's the largest. HRA of Oak Brook's the second. And then we have a lot of other awesome chapters from DuPage SHRM. You have Fox Valley, you have NHRC, and then even ones further south.
Okay.
There's other groups as well. Personally, I can't go to all of these, so that's where I rely on people to, kind of stay in the know about it because some are more focused for job transition, others are more like idea sharing. Oh,
So is the hot seat face to face or no?
right now, mine are in person.
Okay.
Eric has been doing more virtual, but he is having a in-person post-holiday social, I think in a couple weeks.
What
So if
is
you have
your where do you do yours in person at?
so I'm around the Oak Brook, Downers Grove area.
Yeah, I'm in Homer Glen, so I'm not that far. I'm like 30 minutes.
Perfect. Yeah,
It's
once
not
I
easy
get it
for
posted up, I'll let you know.
it's easier for me to get there than it is to go downtown. What's going on with this whole bad rap on Sherman, this whole, like, discrimination thing? Like, what's the beat on that?
Yeah, it got really noisy, and I understand why, because you have the HR association
Yeah, it's like a cop.
misstepping.
Right.
And while you look right, so first off, anytime, and if you look at the history, SHRM does have a little history of layoffs. Anytime you have a history of layoffs, there are increase in claims, right?
Right.
Now,
People
the
complaining.
disappointing thing was, SHRM was that trusted resource, and people felt like they weren't following their own best practices. And then as more of the story unfolded, it just was a bad look from, the investigation to how the termination letter was drafted on the day
Oh.
that, she was alerted to performance issues to
So it was, like,
the
in person? It was, like, just one person in Sherm that, like, leaked out?
no, it was a senior designer, her last name was Mohammed, that sued them for discrimination
Oh.
because she was getting passed over compared to her white peers, and eventually they terminated her, and there wasn't a lot of supporting documentation. So it was like almost like you hear the word
Mm.
sham investigation, things like that.
Oh.
Now, that would be something interesting to ask Neil, right? Because I won't speak for Neil, but with attorneys and things that are going to appeal, I mean, the number of claims that are false or true, like that still needs to be vetted out. So there's few things happening. It's the optics from Sherm, and then it's the actual like what happened here.
What really happened, right? Everyone assumed Sherm was guilty, basically.
I think because in 2027 I'll be state director for Illinois Sherm.
Wow.
And as much as I love SHRM, I don't think HR should let SHRM define the brand of HR. They are a resource, they're a great
Right.
resource,
Right.
and sometimes, leadership does stuff, and as we cringe and we want accountability, but there's so much good work being done at the ground level with the local chapters, the volunteers,
Yeah.
it's the quiet stuff that I think some people are not seeing, but also this is the time where people should make their voices heard, and you can see where the emotion is, which, I mean, let it out, right?
Yeah.
There has to be some, and then I think there was something else that came out recently, so, yeah, they're a little bit under fire at the moment, but,
Yeah, I was asking
hopefully they'll
somebody
fix it
like,
out.
"Oh, should I be joining SHRM too? Like, should I join a chapter?" I was like, "Why would you do that? SHRM, look what they just did." I was like, "Well, I mean, okay."
I mean, it's
I don't
not
know what
like you're going over to Johnny's house for
Yeah,
dinner.
I mean, I was just kinda like, you don't know the whole story. It has a you just don't know, right?
Well,
Like,
yeah, and people were still very, just having a lot of feelings around, just moving the DEI to
the
inclusion and
back burner,
equity,
like, they kicked it off the agenda, basically. Isn't that crazy? How the minute the government wasn't backing it, how all the companies just dumped it. It's kinda like, yeah, so you were doing it for optics only. You didn't really believe in it.
which I think some of that might have been warranted, but I don't think it's a reason to back off. I think the conversation has just shifted over to like civility and just how to treat your fellow person. And as long as
Yeah.
things are open to everyone, I do see where there's success because certain groups are underrepresented and you want to make sure that they know
Right.
where to find folks. It's just when you
Yeah.
start making things exclusive and creating
Yeah.
divisiveness,
Yeah.
um,
It's a real thing. I mean, I grew up in the '80s. It's a real thing. I will tell you how many decades I've been in the workforce. It's definitely better though. If you can't compare times, if you haven't lived in those other times, it's better than it was. My son's generation, like they're in their early 30s, they accept gays, they accept trans. And
yeah,
so I see a change in that generation as opposed to how it was when I was growing up. So I do see a change. I also see a
totally.
change where the wives are holding their husbands accountable in a different way than my generation did,
Oh
in a
oh, yeah,
good
it's
way.
they're no longer
in a good
Whatever you
way.
want, honey. It's
Yeah,
a
no.
partnership.
It is
We're
a
in this
true
together.
partnership. I mean, a little bit to the point where I think, like, they keep score a little bit too much, but I look at how my daughter-in-law is with my son, and he wouldn't be half the father he is if she didn't push him the way she does. I don't think he would be. I think that she held him accountable to his contribution on a daily basis to my grandson. I have to give it to her because I think if she would let him slide with stuff, he would slide. You know? And now
It's
he's a
funny.
little bit more programmed. Now he's does it without nagging at him, so to speak, right? Because now I think he sees the benefit to his son, his really deep involvement
Yeah.
with him.
So, like, of course, as you're talking, I'm, like, thinking HR stuff and training, like, with HR having to influence
She is kind of
leadership
training him.
and managers, like, it is a game of psychology, and you
Oh, it
have to
all
have
is.
patience, but when you get there, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
always easier when culture comes from the top down, but, sometimes they don't know what to do or how to
Right,
do it.
right.
And if they're not on board, that's where I've seen HR just walk out. And I've seen more of that, them just taking back control and saying, "You know what? This is not the right place for me. I am leaving and I'm gonna be more picky."
I think HR has a really thankless job. I think they're in a very tough position in the company. I think it's a very hard job.
Yeah, when was the last time,
Very hard.
yeah, somebody finished their open enrollment and HR got a thank you or
Yeah.
rolled out the
It's
handbook or even payroll every
yeah,
2 weeks, right? You get
yeah,
your check. "Thank you." Like, no,
yeah.
it's
You know,
always
payroll
issues.
used to be under accounting. They used to be under accounting and not HR. That happened about, I don't know, 20 some years ago. I don't know how HR got payroll. I guess confidentiality, but
Well, I see it split, though. I see it
you do
split.
see it split,
I do, and usually the smaller companies will have,
the controller do it.
kinda HR have it under HR. Where
Yeah.
I saw these worlds combine was it was like, what was it, 14 or so, where ACA came out, and you needed all this benefit information, and then also it was a IRS filing, so they had to actually talk to each other.
Right, right.
And
Yeah, yeah.
and
It's crazy. So I've kept you on for an hour, but I do want to ask you something about mentorship. So what is the mentorship program?
so the mentorship program is something we started through HRA about 10 years ago.
Okay,
It's
so it's been around.
So Dwight Klein, myself, Jennifer Kramer, who's our current VP, and then also
Okay.
Sherry Fay. We're the committee, and we started this, like I said, 10 years ago. We have a bio form with a little bit about yourself, interests, what you're looking to get out of the program.
Okay.
Whether you're a mentee or mentor, complete those, and then
I
so
should do
we
that. Yeah.
Oh, 100%, because
Yeah.
then what we do is we get together for literally half a day, and then we try and create pairs, and based off likes and yes,
Yeah.
location matters because I mean, sometimes, right, you do need to get together with people, but it's an
Yeah.
hour to a month. We don't necessarily provide curriculum other than a few opportunities to correct and some, like, ideas, but
Okay.
it runs from April to December. We like to keep it around 25 pairs because in the past we've actually had more, and then it's a little harder to control because then people drop off, then we got to find rematch, do things. But
Okay.
all that work is so worth it because to see not only the impact that they have on each other, the mentees and the mentors, because each can teach each other both. This year we've had folks like Nita Haroon, who was a mentee and now she's a mentor,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
and that's cool. So, we offer that to really, anyone that is in HR. So if you're seasoned, want to give back, great. If you're emerging or at whatever stage and you're looking for a more senior person to learn
Yeah.
from, great. And yeah, we have our kickoff usually at College of DuPage. Jane Murtaugh, she has a HR management class there, so she's
Yeah.
amazing. So sometimes we'll have her students join. So we're very focused
Nice.
on just like grooming the next uh
Yeah.
group and then providing opportunities for them to connect with each other.
That is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know I've never
it's
been
a lot of
part of a
fun.
mentor-mentee thing. I've never done it.
You'd be a great mentor.
Yeah, I think so. I guess I
Absolutely.
would be. I would hope so.
Yeah,
I
you can
like to
mentor me.
see young people. Young people are fun to hang out with. Way more fun than old
They are.
people. They're so much more fun. Yeah,
They are.
yeah.
I
All right,
just
so let's
can't. Yeah.
Let's plug
Sorry. I
you.
was at a meeting what was it? The HR hot seat, and someone started saying 6'7", and I felt old. I'm like, I have no idea what that is, and
What's 6'7"? What?
I don't know. It was something the people were saying, like, "Oh, that's what the kids say."
Oh,
And so then older people were yeah, I don't know, look it up, but
I'm gonna
now I'm
have
that
to.
guy. I'm that guy.
I'm gonna have to. Oh, I'm so far gone with some of this stuff. I have no idea.
Right.
No idea. They were telling me what's the generation 18 to 20?
Z?
What letter? Are we Z?
Yeah,
What are we gonna do after Z? Double Z
alpha.
or something like that? My kids were telling me about some of the stuff, some of their slang, some of the stuff they do. I have no idea. I have no idea what's happening. No idea.
Yeah,
'Cause
like
I'm kind of too old to be my grandchildren. And it's like a generation that I don't get exposed to, you know what I mean? It's just a whole generation that I never really interact with, except at the grocery store or something when they're bagging my groceries or something. Apparently I know who
no.
they are.
My physical therapist was telling me about his son, and his son was saying that, "Oh, wow, like, that person has a lot of riz." And I was like, "What is that?" It's short for charisma.
A lot of you see your face. You're like, "What? Hey, he's got a lot of riz, man." I'm gonna use that now. I'm gonna use that with my sons and see what they say and be like, "Where did you hear that from, you old woman? Like, what
Some
did you
old, yeah,
you old lady?" Oh my god, that's so funny. Alright, let's plug you. How can people find you? If you need benefits, call Brendan Nicholls at Hub.
Yeah, so first and foremost, you can find me on LinkedIn, Brendan J. Nicholls. So I think first and foremost, anyone that is interested in HR, I am always open to connect with
Yeah.
because I just love talking about the profession, how I can help. And so a lot of times there's just no strings attached to that. My day job though at Hub International, like that helps subsidize all the volunteer work and other
I'm
things
sure.
that I can do. So that's why I do end up working a little bit more. I do focus on employers, and yes, I'll work with small groups, but
Okay.
when you think about where our value proposition really starts to kick in, it's in that kind of 100 to I'd say 1,500 employee range, and
Uh-huh.
even up further. But
Mhm.
it's around like running just data on your people, bringing you ideas,
Yeah.
not just saying, "Well, give me the business and then I'll show you what I can do."
Yeah.
It's, "No, let me show you what I can do, and then if you're comfortable, right, let's make a plan to move forward." But I'm open to have those conversations. I'm also open to leverage, the 15 years of HR tech experience if anyone's looking at doing evaluations out there. I don't This is all free. So, I mean, well, I get paid by Hub and then the carriers pay, but that's
Yeah, yeah,
nothing.
yeah. You get
But
paid.
other than that, I just look to connect. If you are in HR and you're an HR practitioner, I try and keep it limited to vendors. I do have a Friday HR roundtable call, and we'll have 30, 40 people on just talking about things that are going on during the week,
Yeah.
questions. I don't record that call because we talk
I
about
know. I
some
was like, "God, why aren't you using a transcript on this? You work so hard, but you don't wanna
I
record it."
it's funny because I actually
You're
type
really good
notes
at it. And I'm
as
like,
we
"I don't know
go
how he's
through.
doing this."
It's a muscle memory. I think people really enjoy the group, and yeah, so I'll offer up whatever help I can provide people, great. And then if you're curious about Hub and potentially working together, I don't bite and conversations are free. So happy to share some
Awesome.
stories of how we've helped other people.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for coming on. You're awesome. It's
Thank you,
fantastic. I'll let
Renee.
you know when it gets released. Another great episode in the hiring room with Brendan Nicholls. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Renee. You're an amazing interviewer, and I'm so happy to do this.
Thanks for joining me in the hiring room. If you like the podcast, please subscribe below and share this episode with someone you think that would benefit from it. We're always looking for good people to interview. So if you have a referral, comment below, or you can email me at renee@mseedinc.com. Thanks. Till next time.